Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to jump into our fifth division preview segment. We're going to go into the NL East, leaving the NL Central for last. If you haven't checked out the other 4 videos so far, do so after this video. Like, subscribe. We've got a couple videos down the pipe before the season kicks off, and I just want to grow this community. We're hitting 1,500 by the end of the month. That is the goal. And I would appreciate every little bit counts. But we're going to do a quick 10-minute preview. This is not the prediction video. The prediction video will be coming out in a couple of days. Starting things off, we are going from 5 to 1 based on projected wins across the Vegas, across other things, but I used Fangraphs, I think, for this one, for the projected wins. 71 projected wins for the Miami Marlins, 91 losses. That's a little bit of an increase over last year, which to me is a little bit surprising. Looking at this roster, there really isn't too much to be excited about. There isn't too much to report on. The only real signing that they had was Cal Quantrill. I guess he's coming in here, going to be their third starter, which is a pretty big boost for a roster that is very, very, very young. Out of the 9 projected starters in their starting batting lineup, only 2 of the players have over 2 years of MLB experience, which to me really tells a lot. Out of the 40-man roster I was looking at on Fangraphs, only 7 of the players are homegrown talent. So I think this speaks to a bigger issue that is going on with Miami right now. They've kind of been on the trajectory down, now projected to be very last in the division. I don't think they were projected last going into last year. They did finish last, however, but Miami has a lot of work out for them, and I don't really see a good way out. If we look at the top 3 of this division, it is a powerhouse division. Washington seems to be getting better. Their offseason changes and stuff like that is a lot better than Miami's. Miami pretty much is, in my opinion, banking on Alcantara having a good year, coming back from his Tommy John surgery. If he can have a good year, maybe they can trade him at the deadline and maybe bring in some more prospects, because even their farm system is not looking super great. Max Meyer, 3rd overall pick a couple of years ago. He is, I guess, the big highlight of this roster, but overall Miami is going to have a pretty tough season ahead of them. They're going to be chasing the Washington Nationals. 73 and 89 is their projected, only 2 more wins than Miami. However, in my opinion, they are a little bit farther along in their rebuild. They're kind of rebuilding from when that World Series happened many moons ago. It's been a long time, and last year they had 6 different players at the first base position. I think that was really one of their big focuses in this offseason. They bring in Nathaniel Lowe, who is an ex-Gold Glover in 2023 for the Texas Rangers. His power numbers, well, he did win a World Series with the Rangers. His power numbers have slowly been going down. He's going to be turning 30 relatively soon. They bring in Josh Bell as well, bring him back to the Nationals, potentially trying to really address this first base issue, which has been somewhat of a problem, pretty much, in my opinion, since Zimmerman has left this Nationals team. Trevor Williams, and Soroka make up the big highlights in this rotation coming in. And of course, they have Dylan Cruz, who is their number 4 overall prospect in the entire MLB. He's number 4. I think he's a fielder, if I do recall. Kind of not super up to it on the prospects. But when I was looking into it, bringing him in with James Woods, CJ Abrams, I think having this young core grow up together, I think that really separates them from what Miami has. Miami, in my opinion, didn't have those players that have shown some skill, some power, like CJ Abrams, and we saw James Wood do last year. But between these 2 teams, I think it's pretty clear that they're going to be at the bottom of the division, because when we start to talk about the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves, these 3 teams are all projected to be top 5 in the MLB, let alone way ahead of these guys. So we go from 73 wins projected for Washington. We're now up to 86 for the New York Mets. And we can all say that they probably had the biggest splash, biggest impact in the offseason, definitely in the free agent market. $765 million goes to Juan Soto, 15 years, one of the most massive contracts we'll probably ever hear about, at least over the next 10 years, right? They signed Sean Manaea. However, he is now dealing with an oblique injury from the spring training, and when it comes to oblique, you're a little worried. They bring in Frankie Montaz as well to try to bolster the starting pitching lineup, and he's dealing with a lat issue with these two pitchers that they're hoping to have some depth in this rotation. Now they're kind of questionable early injuries. I have some concerns when we start talking about this rotation in the New York Mets. Right now, Clay Holmes, who was another signing, the Mets had probably the longest list of free agents, guys coming in, guys coming out, trades, etc., of any team I really looked at in preparation for all of these videos. Clay Holmes comes in, probably was expecting to be a big part of the relief, but now he's slotted to be probably one of their starting pitchers, along with Griffin Canning, a guy who I remember a lot on the Angels, just not really an impact kind of player that you're going to want in your rotation. So right now the Mets taking a step back in the rotation side of things in their MLB season. They do re-sign Pete Alonso, so I think at the end of the day, their lineup is looking pretty lethal. When we look at MVP caliber, Lindor at the top of it, they add Juan Soto, they have Pete Alonso, and they're cleaning up. It's definitely an impact top-heavy lineup. It's going to be super interesting. The bottom still, they bring back a lot of the same guys with Batty, etc. So we're going to see a lot of the Mets, the same team as last year. The rotation side of things has me concerned. We saw somewhat of a Cinderella story with them making the postseason last year and then upsetting the Phillies, who we're going to talk about next. Phillies did win the division last year. It was the first time the Braves had not won the division in 4 or 5 years, I think it was. They went 95 and 67, projected to take a step back this year, 88 and 74. And to me, that was somewhat interesting because at the end of the day, their lineup is relatively the same. It's very strong, and on paper, to me, it looks very strong. Maybe the fact that they're all aging. We've got Castellanos, we have Harper, we have Realmuto, Turner. All these guys are slowly getting older, and I guess maybe their best years probably are behind them. But at the same time, they, I think, addressed what possibly was their weakness, at least for the past number of years. They're trying to address it. Their bullpen. They bring in Romano, they bring in Joe Ross, and these guys, while when you're looking at wins over replacement, don't really have a massive impact, I guess, when you're looking at what Philly was dealing with in the bullpen for a number of years. Hopefully, they get some sort of stability from adding these two guys in here. On top of that, they got Wheeler. They got Nola, of course, as the two guys that have been staples in this rotation and will probably continue to be. They try to have Jesus Luzardo from Miami in a trade, and hopefully that does help bolster their guys. They got Ranger Suarez as well, who had a pretty decent, at least half a year, maybe not consistent throughout the entire year. Will he be able to show those lights of things again? I think the rotation here is powerful. In my opinion, Philly still looks like that powerhouse team, but last year we saw it definitely on the power ranking side, such inconsistency. At times, the record was incredible, but they just weren't having the same level of competition against the higher teams, and I think that's what we're going to set up to here. Number one, we have Atlanta Braves projected to go 93 and 69 after an 89 and 73 year last year, which for them to make the playoffs after losing Acuna, I think it was around June for the rest of the year. He's still not expected to be back this season until maybe around May, Memorial Day-ish. Spencer Strider, he went down last year and he's got a quick recovery, but again, he's not going to be in the lineup right away. We see them lose Max Fried and Charlie Morton out of their rotation, so the depth isn't going to be there at the start of the season, but at the same time, if they have Chris Sale, who won the Cy Young, but also at the same time did put up the most innings he had in 6 years or so. If he can replicate what he did last year, the Atlanta Braves are definitely in for a good time. Profar comes in there. He's going to slot in at the top of the lineup before Acuna comes back, and this lineup is pretty lethal through and through, and with their number one prospect, Drake Baldwin, stepping up, he seems to be making the lineup right out of the gate as the catcher. We saw Travis d'Arnaud. We talked about him, how he had left already in one of the other preview videos. On top of that, they've made the playoffs 6 straight seasons and average 95 wins over those 6 years. So this team has been proven to show that they have done it time and time again. It's kind of even back to the 90s. This team has just had a consistency of winning, and it's kind of part of bread and butter of the Atlanta Braves. So we're setting up for a very, very interesting top of the board here, honestly, it could go any which way, but if we're starting to look at what really separates these teams, the Mets and the rotation has me kind of questioning it. The aging core of the Philadelphia Phillies and whether they have the depth in the bullpen and on the latter side of the rotation, a little bit concerning. But at the same time, the Braves do have the young guys starting to come up. We've seen it with Michael Harris, and just having the big boost probably a couple months in with Acuna coming back. If he can be all right with that ACL, and Spencer Strider, if he can come in there and be massive, they have probably one of the best rotations as well. And then there you guys have it, the National League East, trying to break it down on some of the changes that went on over the offseason heading into this 2025 season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Maybe I missed something important for one of these 5 teams. Love to hear more from you guys. Let me know your predictions, etc., etc., and we will see you guys out there for that next video.